Hello, everybody. I'm Homer Raines, hosting today the fine show, Old Tales of Nevada, Past and Present. And I hope you stay tuned for a wonderful guest, extraordinary story. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi there, I'm Hugh Roy Marshall of the Marshall Mint in Virginia City, Nevada. I'm proud to announce that our 7-ingot set honoring the V&T Railroad is now finished.
That's right, Roy. These beautiful 999 silver ingots celebrate the engines from the world-famous V&T Railroad and honor Nevada's sesquicentennial. These limited edition treasures can be purchased only at the Marshall Mint in Virginia City, Nevada.
Or visit us at marshallmint.com to get yours today.
Shoeman's Custom Cycle with a biker's bike shop. From the new set of pipes to custom renovation, building ultimate machines is our reputation. Feel the performance, experience the power. From chrome to leather, the selection doesn't quit. If it wasn't done to Shoeman's, it ain't. Shoeman's Custom Cycle with a biker's bike shop.
When it comes to cleaning your carpet and tile, make the right choice and call A-Choice. They use a 2-step deep extraction steam cleaning system that removes dirt and those nasty mites and bacteria from your carpet and tile. A-Choice offers baby-safe cleaning products and specializes in pet odor removal. So make the fresher, cleaner, healthier choice. Call A-Choice Carpet and Tile Cleaning, locally owned and operated at 745-1863.
This is John. He's an 18 to 34-year-old male who enjoys football, reality shows, and dramas that forewarn us of the coming zombie apocalypse. John sees an average of 37 commercials per day, and at Spectrum Reach, it's our job to make sure he never sees yours. Because you sell high-end furniture, and John still lives with his parents. So meet Tim. Get more from your marketing. Target only the customers who matter most to your business. Get targeted and go farther at SpectrumReach.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to Old Tales of Nevada, Past and Present. Our special guest today is Ron Randolph Wall. We're going to hear a great deal about this man because it's one of the more extraordinary stories, I think, anywhere in Nevada. But first, we usually turn to Hugh Roy Marshall, our benefactor and my sidekick here, because he gives us an explanation of why we do this show. And I'm going to ask him to also tell a bit about this room in which we are filming today, because that is a significant story as well.
Well, very good, Homer, very good. It's nice to have you here to do the show this time. And basically, we do this show for Old Tales of Nevada to find those individuals who have made significant impacts in a positive way to the state, as well as get them in the history books by the Special Documents Division at UNR and also at the Nevada Historical Society's information system. And the reason for doing this is that Nevada is a very important state. It's just that unfortunately many people don't know why. But Nevada is a very important state in the United States because after the Civil War the United States was totally broke and owed more than what we were worth to France, Germany, and England. And if the Comstock miners wouldn't have come up with a charity to provide the $7 to $8 million to Abraham Lincoln to pay off those entities, we probably would have been France, Germany, and England. And other than that, there's many other reasons, too, to make this a very significant historic state, because the dollar was, for the most part, invented here and came from the silver that was up at the Comstock also. And there's many functions that occur here in the state of Nevada that are very important to the overall health of the United States, such entities as the Desert Research Institute and the tremendous work that they're doing on the bases that are controlled by our armed forces are making tremendous discoveries. And we're getting some of the most important companies in the world to move into town, I guess. So that's important enough anyway. It's a great state, though, and I love it. And I come from Houston, and I'd be probably in a boat down there by now.
Well, talking about great people, I got a Facebook request from Elon Musk today.
Fantastic.
And, I think he's probably a great futurist. He may end up being the finest man of our generation. We don't know. But
we need to move him to Nevada.
But let's switch over to Ron here. Ron, tell us first about your background, your family, your education. You've got a strange accent. Maybe you can explain that as well.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Ron Randolph Wall, and I speak with an English accent, even though I've been living here in North America for 52 years. I started out living in England. That's where I was born, and my parents were Holocaust survivors. But the word survivor is not really a very accurate word, because I don't think that anybody who came out of that experience could be called a survivor, even though my mother and father were managed to leave Germany before the outbreak of the war. They both had to leave their parents there, and they never saw them again. So living in a household where you had lost your mother and father on both sides in circumstances like that was a very difficult time. And of course, after the war, England had lots of difficulties in terms of resources, money, and if it wasn't for the Americans and their help and what went on during the war, England would have been in a very sorry state. So I went to school. I was not very good at it. I always felt that what was going on outside the classroom window was more interesting than what was going on the inside. And interestingly enough, in 1954-55, only 0.5% of English people went on to university. Tiny number. Because people were more interested not in your academic qualifications, but more in your technical skills. And so, like most people, I left school at 15 and a half and went off into the business world. And where I was really interested in getting involved in was in marketing. I thought that advertising was an interesting career because it actually could move people's views and values about how they saw things. Of course, at the end of the day, what you were doing was selling toothpaste or car rental, and in the big scheme of things in the world, that's not really that important. But it was a profession that I thought was interesting and the one that I would enjoy doing.
So what was your principal product that you marketed or promoted at that point in time?
I actually had a very interesting life, looking back at it, and it's a story that people find rather amusing, is that I actually worked for an advertising agency that was responsible for advertising the condoms.
Condoms, there you go.
Yes. Now, I don't know if you know this, for people around here, but during the war, or just after the war, in America, they used to put on the side of a condom for prophylactic use, meaning it wasn't to prevent somebody having a birth that they didn't want, but it was really to prevent disease. Nobody would actually talk about that. Mm-hmm. And when I said I worked for a company that was in advertising and they had this as their client, actually there was no advertising in the newspapers or anywhere for birth control devices. And the company hired me to actually go and convince the media owners in England to change their policy so that actually advertising could happen and people could be better informed.
Because so you're still a teenager as you get into this
Yeah, I'm 19.
profession.
Hey, Ron, did the English people call condoms French letters?
They did. They did, yes.
I had a British chauffeur for a number of years, and he would always tell me about stuff during World War I. He was in over there.
Yes.
Yeah, they're French letters. I was right then.
So I take it but the interesting part of the story is not And by the way, I was successful in convincing the media owners to accept advertising. But the interesting part of the story is how people's lives were actually changed. Because if you imagine a world where young girls are pregnant and they are thrown out of their house because their parents are unhappy about this, or they're in a relationship that was created because of this situation that neither of the parties expected to happen. And you think about the misery that went along with that, which ultimately resulted in divorce or an unhappy home. I actually saw that the work that I was doing was the ability to be able to change the course of people's lives by giving them information so they could make the choices that they needed to make or that they felt were right for them. And so from that point of view, it wasn't prurient at all. I mean, it's a funny joke to talk about it, but the real story behind that is how I felt that I was involved in changing people's lives, which is why I took the job in the first place and why I mark that as sort of one of the major parts of my life about how I've contributed to society in a way that was important to me.
Mm-hmm. That's a major achievement.
Well, it is.
Family planning is absolutely essential.
Yes.
So there came a point, I assume, when you transitioned to North America.
Right. So it's quite interesting how the world outside seems so fascinating. It's the same way that when I was in a classroom, the world outside the classroom was more interesting than the world that was inside. And in England, when I lived there, the world outside was given to me or delivered to me by television. Mm-hmm. And so what did I see? I saw westerns, I saw sunny days, I saw convertibles, I saw blondes, I saw large refrigerators. None of this happened in England, and especially not post-war. And so I couldn't wait to leave, and when I was 24, I came over to North America. I stopped in Montreal for a few years and made my home here. And I wrote to my mother and I said to her, you left Germany in 1936 to save yourself from the Nazis. Now leave England and save the last part of your life for a place that is not driven by class distinction.
Right.
Because right after the war, it mattered what school you went to, what accent you had, where you lived. Everything was driven that way, whereas America was so much more democratic, and everybody was an immigrant. And so she came and followed me to Canada and lived there for 48 years until she died at the age of 94 a short while ago. So it was wonderful to start off there and be there, and I went into advertising. And but there was something wrong in marketing and advertising. And
now, were you still in Montreal at this point in time?
Yes,
okay.
I was in Montreal. And what I say is wrong is that the way people communicate in advertising essentially is based upon a business principle, which is the more money you spend in advertising, the more awareness you will create, and you will become a bigger brand. And I thought that it was a silly way about going about trying to build a relationship with a customer at the same time.
Let's elaborate on that point when we come back. We're going to take a short break from Old Tales of Nevada. Stay tuned.
For your spring and summer wardrobe, soft pastels have arrived at Boutique Elegante. Wonderful sweaters, tunics, and capris create that special look. Bold and bright, the colors of summer in fabulous combinations of red, navy, white, or black. Beautiful chiffon skirts with coordinating tops. Imagine these fashions at your patio party, a day at the lake, or on a cruise. This and so much more at Boutique Elegante.
Somewhere in Time is the place to find the unexpected gift that will be treasured for all time, with one of the largest beer and sun purple glassware collections on the West Coast, vintage toys, Roseville, Flow Blue, casino and brothel memorabilia, Fenton glassware, antique kerosene lamps, sports memorabilia, vintage neon, and automobile ads. Yes, the unexpected. Find a gift that will be treasured for all time at Somewhere in Time in Reno.
Deluxe Travel, locally owned and operating since 1991, is the home for travel to Mexico and Central and South America. The crew at Deluxe Travel is bilingual, trustworthy, thorough, and caring. They will do everything possible to make your dream vacation the best it can be. Now is the time to book for winter travel, so stop by the office at 100 California Avenue or call 686-7000. You can also check us out on our website at deluxetravelLTD.com.
At Deluxe Travel, we sell dreams. Come in and plan yours.
Welcome back to Old Tales of Nevada, past and present, and our special guest today, Ron Randolph Wall. And Ron, you were beginning to elaborate on the way in which you were affecting certain changes and what you wanted to do, your focal point.
So we're now in 1965, 66, and the world is very different than it is today. First of all, there was no internet. There were no cell phones. Database management and marketing was an unheard of expression. But I started to go and see that most companies who were in business didn't actually know who their customer was. So if you went to a movie company and you asked them who watched their movies, they'd say, well, it's a person who has a certain demographic profile. But they actually didn't know who the customer was, what their name was, where they lived, how many children did they have, and how could they talk to them again. Mm-hmm. And when I thought about it, there was actually very, very few businesses who really knew who their customer was. And I thought that actually if I could figure out how to identify those people, then you could make a message to them individually rather than collectively. Because if I talk to you about a certain thing, I'm going to say it in a way that I know that it will be receptive. And if I talk to somebody else, I'm going to go and use a different technique because I'm going to see that they process information differently. Mm-hmm. And so I looked around and I found out there was actually an industry who knew who their customer was. And it was the credit card companies and the banks. And they had all of the data. They knew, for example, who you were, where you lived. But they didn't know very much other information. They didn't know how many children you had. They didn't know whether you owned they might have known that you owned your own home. They didn't know if you owned a car and what brand of car did you use. And they weren't actually looking at the data about where you used the card.
Now, is your reference to MasterCard, Visa, American Express?
Yeah, yes, those companies. And you should know that actually the credit card industry, American Express was around for a while, but Visa only got created in 1960, 62. It came out of Bank of America, which actually had invented the credit card. Actually, the credit card was really invented by a company called Diners Club. Remember that name? Yes. And so the banks all of a sudden realized this was a good business to be in, and they created Visa. And all of the banks were signatory to a system and a process of handling transactions. But back to the whole idea about trying to make money and figuring out where my place was in the world. But they weren't actually looking at where people spent the money and using this information effectively. So I went and I sold my services as a consultant, marketing consultant, to Visa, MasterCard, Bank of America, Citibank, Chase Manhattan Bank. And I went in there and I helped them figure out how to talk to their customer. And but I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy because I was actually working for somebody, but I owned nothing. I mean, I owned my own intellectual ideas, but when you go and you talk to somebody and you say you'd like to sell them something, and they say, well, you're going to sell me a consulting service, I'm going to pay you so much an hour, and that's going to be the end of our relationship. But I wanted to own something. And so I started to think about how I might do that. So I was a consultant to the NFL and the NBA.
Oh, boy.
Two very interesting companies. And of course...
Putting out affinity cards.
Yeah.
Well, that actually came from a conversation. I went to the NFL and I went to the NBA and I asked them who their customer was. It's a question I ask people all the time. And they looked at me and they said, well, it's a male. It's somebody who's between this age group and they support a team. I said, no, you didn't hear the question. Shall I say it louder or shall I say the word slower so you understand what the question is? Who is your customer? Give me their name, their address, and what are they doing in their life that you could impact so you could sell them something more, whether it be an advertising message or selling them merchandise or selling season tickets more effectively. And of course they looked at me and they said, nobody knows that. And so out of that conversation, I thought, well, why don't I create a club where people would want to join? But instead of making it a club, what I decided to do was to actually issue them a membership card. But I didn't want the membership card in their wallet. I wanted them to pull it out every day and use it. And I went to the banks and I said, would you allow me to issue a credit card with the Giants logo on it or the Celtics?
Yeah.
And they said, no, we won't allow you to do that. It's against the Visa rules. But after 2 years of talking to them and convincing them that this would be a smart idea, they said to me, we'll relent, we'll change the rules for you so that you can issue what was called an affinity credit card. And there were no such affinity credit cards in the sporting arena. There were affinity credit cards if you belonged to a school or a medical association, but it had never been translated into sports. And so we went out there and we issued credit cards for every single NFL team and every single NBA team. Nice idea. I made a reasonable amount of money, but not very effective. Why? Because people actually didn't use the card. They had the card in their wallet. They would pull it out to show their friends, but they didn't go and actually use it when they went to go and shop and do everything else. And that was fascinating to me because the card became more of a collectible than it became an instrument of commerce. And since my fees from the NFL and the NBA were based upon how many people used the card, I actually didn't do too well on the idea. And so I thought that I need to rethink the idea. And so I happened to be at a Super Bowl celebration. The NFL would take me to Super Bowl and every year, and they introduced me to somebody from General Motors. And I said to the guy, after I said hello to him, who's your customer? And he said to me, well, it's a man, it's a woman, it's a this, it's a that. I said, well, what's their name and address? Where do they live? How can you sell them more cars? More importantly, how many other cars are there in the household that are a competitive brand to yours that you could go out there and conquest a new sale? The guy looked at me and he said, well, if you could come back to me with an idea about how we could do this, we could talk to these people, I would be very interested. And so now back to the credit card industry, because once again, if you remember, credit card companies know who you are, and they talk to you every month. So if you could actually figure a way how to marry the machinery that the credit card company has to an instrument of commerce where you can talk to your customer, you're doing something very clever, because it's very easy to go out there and mail people something. And you know, I'm sure you've all received a credit card application in the mail. Yes. Okay? The results of those mailings are 0.67% of people will respond to the application. Less than 1%.
That's true good.
35% of those people don't qualify to get another credit card because they've already got too much credit or they've done something bad with the credit
That's
card.
why they replied.
And once people have been actually qualified, only 50% of the people use it, which means millions and millions of mailings go on all the time, but they don't really work. And so I thought, well, there's also a better way to go and make the banking industry better at the same time. So I went to General Motors and I said to them, here's the idea. What we'll do is we will issue a credit card, and on the face of the credit card, it will have the General Motors name. And if people use the card, and this was a concept that had never been used before, we'll give them a reward based on how much money they spend. And if they spend enough money on the credit card, you could actually get the car for free. Because we would go to the bank and negotiate a deal with them, because every time a credit card is used by a bank, they're making about 3% on the cost of the transaction, and then of course they're charging you massive rates of interest, which of course is also a profit. And my idea was to go to the banks and say to them, I want some of that money. So I went to General Motors, I told them the idea, and they said to me, that's not going to work. And so I said, oh, really? And why is that? He says, well, because we know how the banking system works, because we lend people to money already when we lend money to people to buy cars. So I said, well, wouldn't you want to be in a business that would allow you to charge larger rates of interest rather than giving away money for people to buy cars? And so I went to Visa. They signed a contract. And they then said to me, and I said to them, since I'm now going to create a new business for you, assuming I can get this done, what I'd like to get from you is I would like half of the profits that I can negotiate with a bank to give us as a licensing fee. So he says, excuse me, I already told you can't do this because it's not possible. We know the rules about the way Visa works, and they're not going to give you permission. And now you're telling us that you think you could make money by selling that customer name to the bank. I said, yes. So he said, well, we'll sign this contract, and we'll agree to give you 50% of whatever profits. And I got my contract back in 3 days, which was shocking, because it went to the board at General Motors. This is a big corporation. I'm this guy from England, speaks with a funny accent, and they said, we're giving you the contract because we think it's a very good idea and we like to inspire people to go out there and do great things, and we're going to give you a chance.
Oh, great.
And so off I go. I go to Visa and I knock on their door, and they say, of course not, we're not going to give you permission to do that. We are an association of all of the banks. Why should we favor one bank over another? And we're not going to we're not going to give the banks permission to share their profits with you?
Let me interrupt. We are going to take another short break because I want to find out how effective this program became, how many of those cards. Stay right back. We're taking a break from Old Towson, Nevada, and this is a great program.
Yikes! Look what's in your carpet and tile. Dirty, nasty dust mites, bacteria, germs, and pet odor. Make the right choice and call A-Choice Carpet and Tile Cleaning today. They use a two-step system that removes all that nasty stuff from your carpet and tile, and they offer baby-safe cleaning products. Call A-Choice today. The first 25 customers to call will get 3 rooms cleaned for the price of 2. Call today, 745-1863.
For your spring and summer wardrobe, soft pastels have arrived at Boutique Elegante. Wonderful sweaters, tunics, and capris create that special look. Bold and bright, the colors of summer in fabulous combinations of red, navy, white, or black. Beautiful chiffon skirts with coordinating tops. Imagine these fashions at your patio party, a day at the lake, or on a cruise. This and so much more at Boutique Elegante.
This is John. He's an 18 to 34-year-old male who enjoys football, reality shows, and dramas that forewarn us of the coming zombie apocalypse. John sees an average of 37 commercials per day, and at Spectrum Reach, it's our job to make sure he never sees yours, because you sell high-end furniture, and John still lives with his parents. So meet Tim. Get more from your marketing. Target only the customers who matter most to your business. Get targeted and go farther at SpectrumReach.com.
Somewhere in Time is the place to find the unexpected gift that will be treasured for all time, with one of the largest beer and sun purple glassware collections on the West Coast. Vintage toys, Roseville, Flow Blue, casino and brothel memorabilia, Fenton glassware, antique kerosene lamps, sports memorabilia, vintage neon, and automobile ads. Yes, the unexpected. Find a gift that will be treasured for all time at Somewhere in Time in Reno.
If you're a fan of Old Tales of Nevada past and present, we are proud to announce that now you can purchase any of our past episodes on our new website, talesofnevada.com. That's right, these stories of our great Nevada history are now available to you on DVD. Over 180 individual episodes featuring the people, places, and stories that have made us all so proud to live in this great state. So get yours today, a piece of Nevada history. Visit talesofnevada.com.
Welcome back to another episode of Old Tales of Nevada. We're talking to Ron Randolph Wall, and when we left, we were talking about the extent to which the General Motors program became effective. How many of those cars went into circulation?
Well, first of all, it took 3 years to convince Visa to allow me to do this. They rewrote their rules that gave me permission to go out there and solicit a bank and ask for their approval to do it. And then it took me another 2 years to go and find a bank who would let me do this. And I went to a bank in Columbus, Ohio, that today 100% of their business is in what we call co-branded credit cards. It's co-branded with a corporation or with an entity. And I sat in the chairman's office, I told him the idea, and he said, "We won't do this and it will never work." And now today, and I'm sorry that I never thought of patenting this as an idea, 70% of all credit cards in the world are a rewards type credit card that are called co-branded credit cards. But here we figured out what to do. We got a bank to agree to do it. We got Visa to agree to do this. And we did a couple of other things that were very clever. The first one was that almost everybody's credit card that they had in their wallet was issued by the bank where they had their checking account.
Right.
So the first big idea was, why do you actually need to have the bank where you have your checking account issue your credit card? Because people issue credit cards based upon something called a FICO score, which is what your credit ranking is. And if somebody knows what your credit ranking is, it doesn't matter whether they have your credit account or not. It's only your ability to pay. And so the first idea was to go and steal the market share from people who had your credit card account by giving you a credit card that came from somewhere else. And then the second idea was, why only give somebody one credit card, which maybe only had $2,000 worth of credit line on it, when actually there was a great demand for more credit. When you think about the 50s and 60s and you wanted to borrow money and you weren't a corporation, you would go to the bank and you would put a tie on and you would go and dress up because you would go and beg the bank manager to give you the money. Yet the bank had all of this money in their vault, and they were trying to find people who they could lend it to so they could make interest on the money, but that did not translate down to the way in which they dealt with you as a customer. And so I wanted people to have more and more credit cards. I didn't care whether you had 10 credit cards in your wallet. The only thing that we were concerned about was, will you pay your bill off? And of course, we know how many people don't pay their bills off. And it's a predictable rate, and at the end of the day, it's a cost of doing business. But more people had the chance to do money, to have more money.
So at this point in time, was your principal client still General Motors?
I'm only talking to General Motors here at this time, okay? So the next big thing was that the credit card companies charged you $25 for the credit card. So I thought, well, if I'm going to come out with this credit card for General Motors, I'm not in the banking business. I want to sell more cars for them. So I don't have any reason to go out there and charge $25. I went to the issuing bank and said, every customer we bring you, who's a General Motors customer, is going to be a new piece of business that we found for you, and therefore we don't think you should charge $25. We want the card for free. And every bank was charging 19.8% interest. And we said, let's go out there and offer a 14.4% interest. So it cost a bank $125 to find a new credit card customer. All of those mailings, all of those credit scores, all of that bad debt, all of the setting up of the accounts, administering the accounts, sending you your package with your credit card and your new piece of plastic saying, welcome to the wonderful world of Citibank, it's $125. I went to the bank and I said, I don't want you to find the customer. We'll give you the customer. Okay? And in exchange for that, what we want is a part of that $125. And the reason I asked for that was because, if you remember when I told you the story originally, I said to you that, or at the beginning, was that I made a deal with General Motors that I would get paid based upon what I could sell of theirs to the bank.
Based on performance.
Right. So the card launches, 16.8 million credit cards in 18 months.
16.8 million?
It was the biggest credit card launch ever.
They're really hungry for it.
Yes.
Wow.
And my payday from this little clause that was written into the contract that says 50% of all of monies that were collected that had anything to do with selling more cars. I didn't care about that. My payday was $42 million.
Fantastic.
Better than a poke in the eye.
Yeah.
Right. But it was just, when I look back at my mother, who was my fiercest critic and also my best promoter, said to me, I was a bit concerned that you, as a young child, when you were still a teenager working for the condom company, is that you were promoting more sex by recommending people use condoms. And now here you are promoting the idea that people should have more debt. So I figured that the next job that I had, or the next career change, should be something a little bit more socially redeeming. I'm not sure if I actually got there, and I'll tell you that story.
But I assume by this time you've gone from Montreal to...
I'm already now living in New York.
New York City, okay.
Yes. And I never went to talk to anybody else because this was a secret project. Nobody was to know about it. We wanted to be the first in the marketplace, and I knew I was going to get well paid out of this. And so I then went around and I went to go to other people and suggest that I could help them do exactly the same, except that the banks were watching me, and they decided to get into their own business of doing this. And therefore I could no longer ever do a deal with anybody that would give me a share of the profits. They just wanted to hire me by the hour. And so I went off and I did the largest credit card in Portugal, Greece, and Turkey. I created the same idea, but I kept on refining the idea until it became actually even more effective, because everybody started to copy this model. And so I had sort of created my own competition. And so I needed to go and find a way to deliver rewards faster, make the rewards easier to access. You didn't have to wait 7 years to collect enough money to go out there and get a free car. And I kept on refining the idea. But at the end, it was a tough business, because most corporations, there was a change. That it was no longer the owner who was running the company and was concerned about its image and how it talked to its customer. It was now that job had been given off to managers, and the managers often were inexperienced in the art of selling, and it was a job for them. It was a way station along to go out there and build a career. And so you would talk to people, and they weren't there in 2 years' time. And they weren't really students of the historical aspects of how business, how the company worked, but more importantly, that they weren't involved in the psychological aspect of how loyalty is created, how you go out there, engage with the customer, how you talk to them. And I was interested in it, not just from a commercial thing, but also kind of almost as an art form about how you communicate to people. And so I thought that was more interesting, and that led me to saying, I think I want to change what I do, and I was looking for the next big thing.
Which was?
Being in the movie business.
The movie business.
Movie business. Oh, boy.
So when I was a young kid, I'm being a bit cheeky here, I think that there are probably three things on everybody's list as they're a young man starting out in life. And the first one was to find a girl to be with. And now I had gone into the condom business, so I was actually pretty good at that.
I bet.
The second one was to be in the travel business. I'd like to travel the world. And along the way, by the way, I had gone to American Express and said, how would you like it if somebody went into a restaurant in a foreign town and used their American Express card and they got a free dessert or a free bottle of wine? And the guy looked at me and he said, oh, that's a great idea. And he says, here's a list of 28 cities around the world. Go out there and do that for us. So I got to travel all over the world.
Fantastic.
And, it was a very nice little job. But anyway, so travel was there. And then the next one was to be in the movies. And here I thought, well, I'd like to be in the movie business, but I'm clearly not an actor. Well, actually, I do act sometimes, but mostly in business. And the second one was that I wanted to figure out how I could do something in the movie industry that I owned and that nobody else was doing it. Because when you think about business, you want to be doing things where you can't have competition and where you can set your own prices. And so I was very fortunate. I met somebody from Procter & Gamble.
We're going to take another break.
It's a good time to take a break.
And you'll be able to tell us about your good fortune.
Okay.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This is Lauren. She spends her days reading celebrity gossip, watching makeover shows, and checking out the occasional rom-com. Lauren sees an average of 15 commercials an hour, and at Spectrum Reach, it's our job to make sure she never sees yours. Because you're a sporting goods store, and Lauren has never chipped a nail. So meet Brittany. Get more from your marketing. Target only the customers who matter most to your business. Get targeted and go farther at SpectrumReach.com.
Yikes! Look what's in your carpet and tile. Dirty, nasty dust mites, bacteria, germs, and pet odor. Make the right choice and call A-Choice Carpet and Tile Cleaning today. They use a two-step system that removes all that nasty stuff from your carpet and tile, and they offer baby-safe cleaning products. Call A-Choice today. The first 25 customers to call will get 3 rooms cleaned for the price of 2. Call today, 745-1863.
Hi there, I'm Hugh Roy Marshall of the Marshall Mint in Virginia City, Nevada. I'm proud to announce that our 7-ingot set honoring the V&T Railroad is now finished.
That's right, Roy. These beautiful 999 silver ingots celebrate the engines from the world-famous V&T Railroad and honor Nevada's sesquicentennial. These limited edition treasures can be purchased only at the Marshall Mint in Virginia City, Nevada.
Or visit us at marshallmint.com to get yours today.
Shoeman's Custom Cycle with a biker's bike shop. From the new set of pipes to custom renovation, building ultimate machines is our reputation. Feel the performance, experience the power. From chrome to leather, the selection doesn't quit. If it wasn't done, the Shoeman's it ain't. Shoeman's Custom Cycle. We're the Bikers Bike Shop.
Welcome back, folks, to Old Tales of Nevada, past and present, with our special guest, Ron Randolph Wall. And Ron, I think you were about to tell us how you got into the movie business. And your good fortune.
Yes. Well, my whole life has been good fortune, and not that there was a lot of money for much of the time. It was an investment in myself and my ideas, but it all came out right in the end, which is good. So I'm back at the Super Bowl again with the NFL. We remained friends for many years. And they introduced me to somebody, and this woman said, I'm from Procter & Gamble, the world's largest packaged goods company. And we would like to put a movie ticket inside a box of toothpaste. Now, clearly, we know how to print certificates, and we clearly know how to put them inside a box. But there's a real problem, and that is that there are many, many movie theaters, and there are many studios, and the studio relationship with the movie theater is a very complex one about how money goes from the movie theater to the studios and how everybody gets paid. And one of the things that we have been watching you for is that we saw what you did with General Motors, and it was not just about marketing, but it was about how to make a relationship with various financial entities and figure out how to make a system work. And when I did the General Motors job, I actually negotiated the deal with the bank. Mm-hmm. There were lawyers in the room, yes, but the idea about how much money you're going to give me, where the money comes from, I know that you're making more profit than you're actually declaring to me, so that's why I want a piece of it. All of that I negotiated, right? And
was that in the 60s or 70s?
The General Motors was actually in the 80s, 80s, early 90s. So she said, would you like to go out there and figure out how to do that? Because you've done the General Motors job, this should be easy for you. So I said yes. I said, but I have 4 conditions. She said, did I tell you where I came from? I come from Procter & Gamble. We don't offer people conditions. But I'm gonna humor you. What are your 4 conditions? I said, the first condition is that you can't phone me. She says, what do you mean I can't phone you? I said, I know what you're going to do. I'm going to agree to do the job, and you're going to call me every 5 minutes. Is it done? Is it done? I don't want to have your phone calls. You can't call me once you've hired me. So that's my first condition. The second condition is that what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the idea on a piece of paper. And it will be probably not much longer than 3 paragraphs long. And I will explain to you how it gets done. Okay? And I will charge you $250,000 just for that piece of paper. However, if you find anything wrong with the formula about how I'm going to do it, you can tear the piece of paper up and you owe me nothing. She said, well, that's a great deal. I said, but once you hire me, you can't fire me. She said, well, what do you mean I can't fire you? I said, if you change your mind once I start on this project, that you don't want to do this in 6 months or however long this is going to take, I still want my $250,000 if you can't find a flaw in the idea and the structure of the idea. So she said, okay, I can't phone you, I can't fire you, I'm only going to get a piece of paper with 3 paragraphs on it. I'm going to give you $250,000.
That's pretty good.
I said, but that's only 3 concepts. She said, well, what's the 4th? I said, you can only use the idea once. And she said, well, why is that? I said, because I think this is actually a very clever idea, because the moment those words left her mouth, I saw the whole picture. That if I could go out there and I could build this, I could not only put movie tickets inside Crest toothpaste, I could stick it inside of Kellogg's cereal, I could stick it inside, I could give this away a whole lot of times.
Tide detergent.
So,
anything you come up with.
They agreed. They sent me a memo. Here it is, Ron. You've got the deal. Thank you very much indeed. Go away. And I thought this all through, and I came back 9 months later with a piece of paper, laid it all out. They said, we can see no flaw in this idea. Go ahead and execute it. We're going to place an order for 25 million movie tickets. Now, before you think that this is the world's greatest idea, it's actually, it's got a real big, like a smoking bomb. Because what marketers used to do was that they would say, if you buy this package, you have a chance to win a movie ticket. But I don't like that as an idea. I think that's a contest of which most people lose.
Right.
I want to be in the world where everybody wins. So I said to them, let's go and put a movie ticket in every single box. And they said, are you crazy? I says, no, I understand that the toothpaste costs $3 and you're going to put a $12 movie ticket in there. Clearly, if everybody used the movie ticket, you'd be bankrupt. But I'm going to tell you, not everybody is going to use it. And they said, well, how many people do you think will use it?
Had you already done statistical analysis?
I had an idea, because I actually didn't have any statistical analysis at all. I'd never done this before. This was just about a marketing idea and how to get it built, right? And they said, well, you know, we're one of the few companies in the world that actually track the usage of our promotions from way back, like 75 years. Procter & Gamble is a premier company. They know exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it. And they went back and they looked at all of their statistics and they say, you know, I think this will work. Not everybody will use it. And of course, it's quite obvious that what happens is that when somebody buys a tube of toothpaste, they come home, they take the tube out of the box, they throw the box away, and that's the movie ticket inside the garbage can, and which Procter & Gamble didn't have to pay for.
Percentage-wise, how many did end up using it?
Well, this became a new calling for me. So I talked to you about the idea of that talking to you, I can elicit a response from you by the way I talk to you. Mm-hmm. Okay? This is a little technique called neuro-linguistic programming. I'm measuring how you hold your body, how you respond to what I'm saying, and when I present to you a concept, for example, that's philosophical, I watch your eye movement and I can tell from your eye movement about how you're going to respond and how you think. Mm-hmm. But in advertising, there are all of these markers as well. So if I put the ticket inside the box, and when you pull the tube out, the certificate falls into the basin, that is going to have a higher use than if I actually print the ticket on the inside of the box and I make you rip the box apart to get the movie ticket. So I decided that actually not only was the movie ticket business a clever idea, but I'm going to be in the business to try and figure out how to keep the response level at a rate that was predictable so that actually I could keep on doing this again and again and again. And so Procter & Gamble bought the movie tickets, and they printed it on the inside of the box as I told them to. And because people don't have a lot of interaction with a tube of toothpaste box, okay, from the store into the bag, into the house, into the garbage, it's a quick run, okay? Whereas a cereal box has a totally different reaction in the household. Mm-hmm. It's on the kitchen counter or the kitchen table for 3 weeks. So actually only 0.5% of the people use the movie ticket.
That's something.
And when you take the 0.5% times $12 divided by 25 million movie tickets, it landed out costing them about 8 cents a box, which is a lot cheaper than saying 25 cents off the box, which they gave away to everybody, okay? And 25 cents is only 25 cents. I was giving you a $12 movie ticket, which of course their sales surged because the value was so great, yet people didn't use it. Program finished, I got my money, everything was over, I got my $250,000 as a bonus for being able to figure out the idea, and then I said, okay, I've now got a great idea, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to sell it. It took me 4 years to find the next customer. Because every time I went to speak to the corporations and said, here's the idea, and it's based upon the fact that not everybody will use the ticket, nobody believed me. They said, oh, well, it's Procter & Gamble, they have research, they're a rich company, and if it didn't work at 0.5% and it was 7%, they just pay for it, it'd be the end of it. And if I make a mistake about how much money I allocate to pay for these movie tickets, I'm going to lose my job. So I couldn't sell it. But I wasn't listening, because what the words were, not no, even though it looked like it was no, it was protect me and figure out how to make the response rate predictable, that it's guaranteed. Well, there are examples of that in the world all the time, that people have situations like that. And it's, for example, when a ship takes off, you never know if it's going to reach port. So what do? They go out there and they insure the contents. So I show up at an insurance company and I say, I have a bet for you. And the bet is that if this redeems at a higher level than X, you will pay for that. And they said, well, we've never done that before. I said, well, you have. You remember those contests where they do a hole-in-one and they guarantee if you get a hole-in-one, you get $1 million? Well, I went to that insurance company. And they came to me, I went to them, I had a long conversation, we talked about this. They looked at other statistics and they came back and they said, well, underwrite insurance. And I went into Kodak and got a Kodak to put movie tickets inside their little yellow boxes of film.
Yeah.
But I realized that the moment I did this, that I had crossed a threshold.
Ron, you have been such a fascinating guest. We're going to have you back, because I know this is a crescendoing story. I know that you end up selling 1.8 billion movie certificates, working with studios, Comcast, Fandango, and we want to hear the rest of the story.
Most definitely.
So thank you for viewing today. This program, Old Tales of Nevada, Past and Present, has become one viewed by so many people. We want to see you back next week. Have a great and happy day. And think in terms of the greatness of the state of Nevada.